Hi, it's Datache. And back in 2015, Nintendo were really pushing this game called Yokai Watch. It was a monster collecting JRPG by Level 5. You know, the guys that made Layton. But like any monster collecting game, when it was released in the West, it was faced with immediate comparisons to Pokemon. These comparisons, alongside the Wii U era marketing, did not give Yokai Watch the best reputation online.
Gassy? Cheek squeak is what?
As for me at the time, I was about 11 years old and basically the target audience. As such, I was really into the anime and games as they were coming out, even watching a bunch of the episodes and movies that never left Japan. All this to say, I'm Yokai Watch's one and only glazer, and by the end of this video, I want to have gone over my experience growing up with this series, why you should check it out, and where the future of Yokai Watch is going. So with that said, here we go. Yokai Watch. In Yokai Watch, you're an ordinary kid with an ordinary life, until one day you stumble upon a gachapon machine in the woods that begs you to feed it.
Feed me, feed me.
Whoa! What? Who was that? Who said that?
Feed me, feed me, feed me, feed me, feed me right now.
Where's that coming from?
Because you're 11 and have no survival instincts, you listen to the strange voice, turning the knob of the machine and releasing the yokai Whisper, your new yokai butler, getting gifted the mysterious Yokai Watch. You see, in the world of Yokai Watch, yokai are creatures that cause all sorts of inconveniences in humans' daily lives. They can inspirit people or objects, which is sort of a catch-all term for possession or cursing, which can affect people in all sorts of different ways. They can make people argumentative, sick, or gassy, but also make people passionate or joyful. And now, with your new Yokai Watch, you have a device that can be used to make the usually invisible yokai visible, and let you communicate with them. I really like the premise of this game. Instead of a globe-trotting adventure like a more traditional JRPG, this game takes place in a mid-sized town called Springdale. This game is mostly episodic, each chapter of the game focusing on a new storyline, sort of like a slice-of-life anime. These range from defeating a yokai of a lake to get back your friend's lost ring, to exploring a museum at night to investigate a mysterious rumour. It turns everyday locations into JRPG dungeons, and that's an idea I've always been in love with. I think it's the main reason I like Earthbound too. These stories usually end with a big boss fight and oh geez, I should probably talk about the battle system. In Yokai Watch, your team of up to 6 yokai friends act in battle without your input, either targeting whatever enemy you have pinned, or acting randomly, which I know might already be a turn-off for some people. I remember back when this game first came out, this was a major point of criticism for the Pokemon cocksuckers who didn't play past the first half hour of the game. But there is room for strategy in this system. You see, yokai aren't pets, they're friends. They are established characters with their own will and goals who've come to help you out. So you, as the main character, work to return the favour as a sort of strategist. Only 3 yokai can be out on the field at a time, but you can change who's active with this wheel on the bottom screen. It lets you literally rotate party members in and out of combat, which will be important when yokai start getting inspirited in the heat of battle. When your yokai are inspirited, their use in battle is greatly reduced. They act slower and hit far less hard. By pulling them into the back of the party, you can perform these little WarioWare microgames to get them back in form. When the system really comes to life though is in the boss battles, where you'll be constantly rotating your yokai in and out of battle, prioritizing yokai who best suit the situation. And this is on top of a lot of fun strategic team building elements. Yokai are all a part of specific tribes, which when placed next to each other on the battle wheel, will grant specific positive effects. So immediately your decision making is made more complicated. Maybe you want to place your tank next to your healer so they can draw aggro, but maybe you want to put your healer next to your attackers, not just to support them in battle, but also to get that bonus stat increase. Then of course there's equipment that affects stats, and attitudes that influence what actions yokai are most likely to take, and passive abilities, and powerful ultimate abilities that come from charging a gauge in battle. And I could honestly go on all day, but there are better videos out there that go in depth on this battle system. The point you should take away from this is that there is a lot here. It's a game that rewards you for engaging with its deeper mechanics, but also allows you to take a more casual approach. I think the thing I like most about Yokai Watch's battle system though is that it incentivizes you to swap out your party a lot. I think Pokemon has this issue where the most efficient way to build your team is to find 6 critters you like and stick with them to the end of the game. Like, everyone jokes about Gen 4's all reliable, but up until recently it wasn't really practical with the way those games' experience economies worked to do a lot of experimentation. Everyone gives the new XP share crap, but I genuinely think if you cycled more Pokemon in and out of your party, you'd get the challenge you're hoping for. In Yokai Watch, Yokai are explicitly put into different tiers in-game, E to S, and you need to upgrade your watch to see more powerful Yokai. Usually, you recruit Yokai mostly randomly after regular encounters. You can boost the chance of getting them by tossing them their favourite food, but for the most part, recruiting Yokai will just happen passively as you play, which means you're constantly coming across newer and stronger characters to add to your party, and swapping out old ones for new friends to stand a better chance in battle. And because there's multiple ways to get experience points, you don't have to walk around town scanning for Yokai to grind your party up to be viable. Like, I'm not gonna say Yokai Watch is the peak of monster collecting RPGs, but I think it does more to separate itself from Pika-Piss than people give it credit for. Anyway, back to Yokai Watch proper. The game does have an overarching plot, but for most of its runtime, it's more focused on endearing you to its characters, yokai and human alike, and the town itself. There's tons of little side quests to do throughout the game. A lot of them are basic fetch quests, but others may need you to defeat a yokai inspiriting someone, or bring the right yokai to help someone out, like helping deal with their IBS. There's this very cute system with side quests where, alongside your active party getting experience when you complete a side quest, a little animation plays, and depending on the outcome, you have a chance at a bonus reward. This game is just very endearing, and I think the way it presents itself, both visually and with its sound design, comes together to make you really love all the characters and its world. I'm a big fan of the cheerful vibe of Yokai Watch's OST. The themes for Springdale make you feel like you're running around on a bright sunny day. While themes for dungeons feel threatening and spooky, sort of like Goosebumps. Meanwhile, the battle themes manage to strike a unique blend of tension and comedic charm. Plus, the use of that weird synth and that plexophone is just very distinct and gives all the music this very goofy, ghostly vibe. I fucking love it. But that's enough talking about video games. What am I, a virgin? Yes. So let's talk about something that is historically associated with people who have girlfriends. Anime. So, sit back, here's their story, Nate say hey yo no, whisper go cracker like a boom boom, there's more yokai than taters in Idaho like Chick Squeak and his popo. Hear that there? Way down low, feature font's gonna make you quick commode. All these Garapotes not apply yo. Okay, I'll stop. I find the Yokai Watch anime to be a very interesting part of this franchise's history. Hell, I'm sure a good number of you found out about this franchise through the show. I, for one, watched a shit ton as a kid. I was obsessed. And this was a calculated maneuver. The anime aired just 6 months after the game first released in Japan. This franchise was a multi-pronged attack of video games, anime, manga, and toys that all influenced each other. The anime itself was mainly comedy-focused, being composed of multiple segments, sort of like Psyche-K or Love is War if you've seen them, which separates it from a lot of its more battle shonen-focused competition. And I'd say the anime had the greatest influence over the franchise's identity, at least for a while. For example, how it established our main trio of Nate, Whisper, and Jabanian. So fun fact about Nate, he's one of 2 character options you can pick at the beginning of Yokai Watch. The female main character, Katie, is the other, with her own unique watch design and animated cutscenes. there's a good chance you genuinely forgot about this, and that's because Level 5 hates her ass. She's left out of most major marketing material, and after Yokai Watch 2 is just straight up removed as an option. First time? That's all to say that Nate is a core part of Yokai Watch's branding, which is why it's really funny to me that in the anime he's a massive fucking asshole. In the game, Nate is a very blank slate kid who's just sort of here to be a window into the yokai world for us, the player. In the anime, he's a bit more flawed as a protagonist. He can be bratty, selfish, and a bit of a coward, and honestly, I am so down for it. This was a deliberate decision from the creators of Yokai Watch, and I think it makes him more relatable and gives him a distinct personality. He doesn't always make the right choices, and it makes him feel a bit more real. And this philosophy extends to the two other mainstays. Jibanyan is a cat yokai based off the Nekomata, and basically the main mascot of the series. He has a genuinely tragic backstory where, despite giving up his life to protect his former owner, he's left to believe she never cared about him at all and finds new friendship in Nate and Whisper. Whisper is the main helper character, a la Navi from The Legend of Zelda, and basically the main yokai you get to hear from in the game and anime. He's been imprisoned in a gachapon ball since the age of feudal Japan and gives Nate a lot of context behind how yokai and humans interact. But these two, at least in the anime, are just as flawed as Nate. Jibanyan is lazy as hell and has a weird thing for a cat-themed idol group. No, I will not elaborate. And Whisper doesn't actually know any of the stuff he claims. He legitimately just looks all of this shit up on his iPad and gets given so much crap for it. These three are flawed in pretty unflattering ways, but it does make the moments where they all act like a little family all the more endearing. And clearly the developers and fans alike agreed, since the three of them become a lot more prominent in the games from Yokai Watch 2 onwards. For me at least, this dynamic is what makes the adventures they go on in the anime so entertaining. Whether it's following a pretty standard Yokai of the Week format, where our main characters encounter a new yokai causing trouble and have to find a way to deal with them, or even just Nate encountering a mundane problem and trying to use the power of yokai friends to overcome it, with mixed results. Or sometimes, episodes decide to do something completely batshit. Like on one hand, there's some recurring segments, really simple ones, like little Koma-san, who's a yokai from out in the country who's overwhelmed by the sights of the big city. Oh my swirls! But then there's also Mangy Mutt, who is literally a middle-aged man who got turned into a fucking dog yokai who is canonically a drunkard and keeps failing to pick up women. What is happening? What is happening? The further you go into the show's run, the more unhinged plot ideas that start appearing. Like that episode where Jibanyan's robot self from the future is canonically gay and likes it up the arse. Here's footage of Jibanyan being canonically gay and liking it up the arse.
Give it to me! I need that screw! It tickles.
Wait, is Jibanyan enjoying this?
You see, the joke here is that Jibanyan is canonically gay and likes it up the arse. So if you couldn't tell, Yokai Watch was weird. But it was also very popular, in Japan anyway. Back in 2014, the franchise blew up, to the point where the Yokai Watch anime was overtaking Pokemon's in views. And this ended up genuinely impacting Pokemon as a franchise, with the Sun and Moon anime taking direct influence from Yokai Watch, changing to a more slice-of-life structure and using a simpler, comedic art style. If you weren't there, you should know at least in the West, people hated that change. I think nowadays it's appreciated slightly more, but coming off of the heels of X and Y it was a shock to be sure. But if it was big enough to have a knock-on effect on fucking Pokemon, how did it manage to fall from grace? Well, it's caused by the same thing behind most of life's problems. White people. Yokai Watch is a very, very Japanese franchise. The very concept of yokai come from old Japanese folklore, ones that the original Japanese audience would understand, but Westerners had no context to. And on top of that, there were just a lot of instances of the localization teams and advertisers totally dropping the ball. The anime was aired on Disney XD, a channel ubiquitous with shows being left there to die since a lot of people didn't have access to it. There were tons of terrible timings for the release of games, Yokai Watch 2 coming out in the peak of Pokemon Go, and Yokai Watch 3 being thrown onto the 3DS when the Switch was already out. And both were heavily understocked. Even if you were interested, you were never going to get a copy. We got Yokai Watch 2 years after Japan in 2015, or 2016 if you're in Europe, which probably couldn't be helped, but by then, not only was the 3DS already on its way out, but Yokai Watch was losing popularity in Japan too. I haven't mentioned the later games too much in this video, mainly because I have more memories with the first game, but while Yokai Watch 2 and 3 would add many new spins to the formula while also expanding the scope of the city, it wasn't enough to maintain interest, with Yokai Watch 3 specifically having a major dip in sales after the success that was Yokai Watch 2 in Japan. And while this seems to be a very complicated issue, the main consensus I've seen for why this happened is that the series was oversaturated and people got tired of it. They were pumping out spin-off games and movies every year, and while they did try some risky experiments like Shadowside, which was a darker reboot, and far later on the high school one I can't really be fucked to elaborate on, only some of them paid off in the end. These experiments all got incorporated into one, a game that has still not been translated into English, and probably never will. Yokai Watch 4. This entry in the series was a full-on 3D action RPG with real-time combat, where the humans can apparently fight the yokai now? Well, that was a decision. This game allowed you to time travel to several different eras, gain Shadowside forms for the yokai, and was all wrapped up in a far more involved plot than any of the series before it. And it sold like shit in Japan. It just didn't work. And when Level 5's English team shut down in 2020, a lot of us were left without hope of any future games being localized, with the last few Yokai Watch games being Japan exclusive. Level 5's English team did get reinstated a couple years later, but I feel pretty confident we're not getting another Yokai Watch game translated. Nor do I really think the series is going to come back from this. But there is hope, as a few months ago, a trailer for something new came out. Holy Horror Mansion isn't exactly a new Yokai Watch game, but it has the spirit. It's a successor to Yokai Watch and a Ghostcraft RPG, where you can assemble everyday objects to make party members. We don't have too much information at the moment, but I'm choosing to be hopeful about it. At least from the trailer, it looks like something to be excited about. It also seems to be going for the same multimedia approach that Yokai Watch took, so hopefully they don't make the same mistakes again. I remember around the time this was announced, there were a few mixed opinions in certain circles. Holy Horror Mansion was advertised as the next concept for Yokai Watch, but admittedly doesn't have a lot to do with Yokai Watch beyond theming. Despite how Yokai Watch sold in the West, it does have a small but passionate fanbase. There's been multiple attempts to try and save the series in the West, and the amount of love I've seen for this series online does fill me with comfort, knowing I wasn't the only one who loved looking into this world. But even if we aren't getting a new entry in the Yokai Watch series, at the very least we should approach this new project with an open mind. After all, that's likely how you got into Yokai Watch, right? It certainly won't be the same as we're used to, but I think that's fine. We have our memories of our days spent in Springdale, the good and the bad, and that's kind of why I wanted to make this video. Yokai Watch as a franchise is about the petty inconveniences that can be thrown into our daily lives. Whether it's getting into an argument or catching feelings for someone, Yokai Watch tells us to embrace these moments. To separate people from their struggles, from yokai, it isn't right. Because those struggles are what makes us human, and I think that's beautiful. So I don't consider this a goodbye to the series, but instead a chance to reflect on how we got here. I think the best way to keep Yokai Watch alive is to share our experiences and convince others to give it a go. Do you have any memories of growing up with Yokai Watch? Who's your favourite yokai? Share it in the comments below. I'd love to see what you guys have to say. So, until later, I'll see you guys in the next one.